Have you guys ever wondered what it's going to take to become a good fish cook? My name is Yanni. This is Fisherman's Belly, where my goal is to help you cook your catch over 1,000 different ways, and we are starting with the pantry. So why start with the pantry? Well, here's why. If you don't have your pantry properly stocked, then you're going to be limiting yourself on what you can cook. For example, let's say you've got some fish in the freezer, or you've just come home with some good fish and you want to make a meal for tonight, or you want to make a meal that night. Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to run to your pantry and see what you've got. Do you have oil? Have you got soy sauce? Have you got rice? Do you have salt and pepper? You know, if you don't have all that stuff and you don't know what to do with it, then you're going to be really limiting yourself. So, I'm creating a how-to series here, and today we're going to do part one. I'm going to talk basically about everything that we need in our pantry to get the basics done, to get the basic fish meals done. And then in part two, and maybe even part three, I'm going to talk about what we need in our pantry to cook Mexican meals, to cook Latin meals, to cook Mediterranean meals. And when I say Mediterranean meals, I'm talking about Mediterranean seafood. By the way, once you become a good fish cook, it's going to be a natural transition to take your skills that you're learning here and move on into the rest of the cooking world. You're going to be able to cook with beef and chicken and pork. You're going to make your own lasagnas. You'll gain confidence once you master a certain area, and I'm here to help you with the fish. Alright, so let's start off with the absolute most basic ingredient that's been around for ever since man's been around, and that is salt. I never ever use this salt. That's not true. There are some applications for this salt. This has iodine in it, and we don't need iodine because we eat fish, so we get plenty of iodine. The only reason I ever use this salt is I use a handful of this salt when I'm making my pasta water. That's about it. That's about it for my pasta water, and that's about it. Here's what I love to use. I love to use kosher salt. And here's the reason why. And here's the reason why I don't like using this. It's really hard to judge how much of this you're using, whether it's in a shaker, a salt shaker, or whether you're using it by hand. And if you've seen my videos, you know that I'm constantly telling you guys to season as you go. You don't season at the end of the creation of your meal. You always season as you go. And it's really hard to know how much salt you're actually using when you're using this. But when you're using kosher salt, you merely, and you put it in a small little dish like this, you merely grab it with your hands and you can feel how much salt you have, and then you get to distribute the salt through your meal with your fingers. Now, good chefs, by the way, will use, because of muscle memory and its automatic form, they'll use 2 fingers, they'll use 3 fingers, they'll use 4 fingers, or they'll use all 5 fingers if they need a lot of salt, and they can do that with kosher salt. Another reason that I absolutely love kosher salt is my mom taught me this long ago. When I'm cleaning fish, what I'm talking about is the inside of the head cavity or the inside of the gut cavity. I will take kosher salt and liberally put it on the inside and use a butter knife to scrape everything off, you know, the heavy blood and the small little organs that are left. And the kosher salt acts like an abrasive agent and helps me clean everything. So that's another reason that I love kosher salt. So let's move on. And now it's time for pepper. So here I've got a pepper grinder. The pepper grinder is totally awesome. I buy fresh peppercorns in here, and I've got an adjustment so I can have fine or coarse or medium ground. I love coarse ground, by the way. And here's the beauty of pepper. Pepper is very, very nutritional. It's full of antioxidants and it's antibacterial. So it is healthy for your body. Plus, it's a perfect complement to salt, and it's a perfect complement to any meal because it adds just the right amount of heat. So that's why you always have salt and pepper. you just need this stuff. And I strongly suggest you get a pepper grinder so you can keep it nice and fresh all the time. Okay, next item. And speaking of heat, next item is hot sauce. And along with the hot sauce, I brought its complement, honey. So, hot sauce. I can't begin to tell you how much I love hot sauce, especially when I'm making Mexican food. However, I just don't use hot sauce for burritos and tacos and tostadas. I use hot sauce to marinate a lot of my fish dishes. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and I know you probably think, God, you marinate your fish with hot sauce, it's going to turn out blazing hot. It doesn't. It's amazing. I can literally take a yellowtail fillet, a white sea bass fillet, a halibut fillet, put it in a bag, drench a bunch of hot sauce on top of it, let it sit for an hour or so, put it on the grill or bake it, and I'm telling you, you get this incredible flavor and there's no heat involved. My wife doesn't like hot food, certainly not like I do. And believe me, she would let me know if it ended up too hot. So hot sauce, believe it or not, all by itself, and not just fish. I do it with chicken, with beef, with pork, all marinated straight with hot sauce. And it just gives you this wonderful flavor, and different types of hot sauce give you different types of flavors. So I can't live without hot sauce. And oh, by the way, you talk about nutrition. Let me tell you, vitamin C, capsaicin for your joints, antioxidants, and here's a really good one, hot sauce kicks up your metabolism. And what does that really mean? That means that you're going to be digesting and using your food more efficiently, which means you're going to be keeping the weight off. It's going to keep your metabolism revved up. I love hot sauce on my eggs in the morning. It helps me with my metabolism and my weight for sure. I love hot sauce. Okay, let's get to the next one. Honey, oh my God. Okay, so as a cook, and you guys are going to turn into good cooks, trust me. As a cook, you've got to realize and appreciate the balance between heat and sweet. When you make a meal, here's a good example. When you make a soup and you put a little too much hot sauce, or maybe you've added some peppers that are way, way hot, what are you going to do? I'll tell you what you can do. You can offset that heat with honey. Honey acts as a perfect balance to heat. That's just one of the wonderful things about honey. I mean, nutritionally, yeah, there's a lot of sugar and it can rot your teeth out if you overuse honey, but it is full of antioxidants, by the way, and it is nature's true sweetener. Now, in terms of cooking, honey, and especially on fish, honey is this wonderful glazing agent and gives our fish a beautiful caramelization color, the color that we all want. Whenever I make a marinade and I add a little bit of honey to that marinade and I put it on the grill, I know that I'm going to get color instantly. And that really helps because, as you know, getting color on a fish when you're grilling it can take longer than it should, and you can overcook your fish. But if you end up glazing it with a little bit of honey, that honey will turn that fish into this golden brown color super fast. So that's one of the reasons I love to use honey as a marinade. Just one of the reasons I love to use honey as a marinade. And besides that, I love to use honey in my salad dressings. I'll take leftover fish and I'll whip up a salad and put my leftover fish on there, and I'll add my lemon, my olive oil, and a touch of honey. Just believe me, once you get used to having that touch of sweetness and you start to appreciate that you've got all these flavors going on in your mouth, you're gonna love honey. And not just on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or peanut butter and honey sandwiches. So let's move on. Okay, I talked to you guys about soy sauce, and here's sushi rice. Oh my God. Soy sauce, let's talk about soy sauce first. Soy sauce I love soy sauce as a marinating agent. Now this isn't Kikkoman, and Kikkoman is super, super expensive. And yeah, maybe I'll use Kikkoman for my sushi, and you guys should too. It's a higher quality soy sauce, a soy sauce that you're used to. But how about when you want to, for example, a couple of months ago when I was in La Jolla and I ended up cooking 50 pounds of yellowtail and made fish burritos for everybody, I use soy sauce as one of my components for the marinade. Did I use the expensive soy sauce? Heck no. This soy sauce here, $2 a bottle, and it does the job. These go to an Asian market and the racks are full of inexpensive soy sauces. You need soy sauce in your pantry for a number of items, especially if you're getting into pokies, you need soy sauce. Speaking of poke, sushi rice. Sushi rice is not only used for sushi, which I highly recommend you guys get into, but it's also used for poke bowls. Sushi rice is incredibly easy to cook up. You know, there's a traditional way of doing it. I've got a couple of great recipes for sushi rice in a couple of my meals, and I show you guys the traditional way of creating it. But once you get good at making sushi rice, you can make sushi rice in less than 20 minutes and use it for any number of things. If you want to go into sushi, have at it. But if you want to create poke bowls, oh my God. So a poke bowl in the morning, right before you go fishing, will keep you full. It'll give you plenty of carbohydrates with lots of sugars and energy. And poke bowls, of course, have got protein, the fish. But sushi rice will keep you going throughout the day. You need to have a bag of sushi rice in your pantry. Okay, it's time to move on to the next item, and that is spices. How many of you have got spices sitting in your pantry that you haven't used or haven't even looked at for years? That used to be me in the past. I never used my spices, or I just used very few. I'm telling you, that is the wrong approach. Spices in the past were used for medicinal purposes, and still today, spices have a lot of medicinal purposes. But all in all, we use our spices for different types of foods that we cook. A spice rack like this has got, I don't know, there's 20 different spices on here, and I probably use at least 15 of them on a regular basis. And what's really cool about spices is by using different spices in your meals, you can actually bring yourself all around the world and try different cuisines and different tastes with different spices. And fish is a perfect medium to use all your various spices on. Especially if you're like me and you get into my website and my recipes, you know that I do Latin and Asian and Mediterranean. All these spices can be used for those different kinds of meals. Now, my wife got me this spice rack a few years ago, and I have fallen in love with it. She got it from Costco. And what's really cool about this particular spice rack is for the first 5 years, you can get free spices. As soon as you run out, you contact the manufacturer and they send you spices for free. And that's one way of guaranteeing that your spices are going to be fresh. But the best way to guarantee that your spices are going to be fresh is if you use your spices regularly. Spices are definitely the way to go, and be sure and rotate your spices and keep them fresh, keep them up to date so that you get maximum flavor. Fresh spices are a big must for your pantry. All right, you guys, I have saved the best for last, and that is in your pantry, you need to have oil. Cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, grapeseed oil, sesame seed oil, and I've got a bottle. Actually, this came from Italy. This is a real fancy extra virgin olive oil, and I brought this out for a reason. I'll tell you that in just a minute. Now, all these oils have their own purposes, but one thing that you're going to notice here is that all these oils are natural oils from vegetables. They're not some magical canola oil or Crisco oil. And by the way, canola oil was in the news just yesterday. Big factor in contributing to Alzheimer's disease. Crisco oil, nothing but trans fats. Just terrible. Good oils that come from vegetables are the best thing that you could ever put in your body. It's very true that oils are packed with calories, but don't you dare count those calories in your overall calorie count, because the calories that come from oils counteract the bad calories that are in your body. So when it comes to frying fish, I use one of two oils. I either use peanut oil or I use grapeseed oil. They've got a real high smoking point, and they're natural oils that are very, very healthy for your body. Remember, when you're frying, deep frying especially, you want to be between 350 and 375, and grapeseed oil will not start smoking at those high temperatures, and neither will peanut oil. Now, peanut oil will impart a nutty flavor to your food that you're frying, but grapeseed oil is really mild and doesn't have any extra flavor, so that's why I like to use grapeseed oil. Another great heart healthy and body healthy oil for you is sesame seed oil. I use this for my Asian cooking, and believe it or not, a lot of Middle Eastern cooking uses sesame seed oil. So I always keep sesame seed oil in my pantry, and again, it's super, super healthy. Now let's talk about my all-time favorite, olive oil. As a Greek kid, I drank olive oil every day of my life, and even today, I have olive oil in the morning for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I use it for frying eggs. I use it when I'm making my salad dressings. I use it to marinate my meats, especially my fishes. I love olive oil, and this is cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil that we found at Costco a few years back, and we have fallen in love with it. It really, really reminds me of the Greek olive oils that my parents used to import from the Greek store and bring them home, and the wonderful flavors that went along with the cold-pressed olive oil. So I always use cold-pressed olive oil. I don't use it for frying because it has a lower smoking point, so it starts imparting a bad flavor if you heat it up over 325 degrees. So I generally don't use it for frying, but I use it for everything else. And you talk about healthy for your body, omega-3s, omega-6s. Plus, I don't know if you guys know this, but your body needs fats. Your body needs healthy fats. Fats carry nutrition to all your cells, and fat in your body, healthy fat, helps your body rebuild itself. The reason I brought this smaller, fancy bottle here is I want to encourage you guys to buy larger bottles of olive oil. If you pay a lot of money for a small bottle of olive oil, and it's probably worth it, you're going to use a lot less of it. I don't want you to do that. I want you guys to be healthy. And one of the best and easiest ways to be healthy is to use a lot of olive oil all throughout your day, every day. So that's why you want a big container of olive oil. So you get used to using it, and believe me, it's well worth it. So listen, that wraps it up for today. And I am going to create another part to this series where I'm going to talk about pantry items that you need for international cuisines, pantry items that you're going to use for your Asian cooking, for your Latin cooking, for your Mediterranean cooking on another video coming up. But if you guys learned a few things today and you enjoyed what you saw today, subscribe to our channel. That way you can keep up to date with everything I'm doing. And if you have any questions about any of these items I talked about for your pantry, ask them down below and I'll get back with you just as soon as I can. So this is Yanni, and I'll see you guys on the next one.